Talking about the cryogenically frozen thing, I know I've brought it up once or twice before. That old baseball player, Ted Williams, I didn't realize this till now looking at his Wikipedia. Apparently he put, when I die, like cremate me and sprinkle my ashes like in the Florida Keys or some shit. And his children instead were like, no, we're going to cryogenically freeze you and spend a bunch of money to freeze you. And so they like beheaded him and then kept his head, some lab, in like liquid nitrogen with like all the hair shaved off and everything. And so now he's, instead of being cremated, he just has a frozen head and is nothing but that.
What if he gets the last laugh? What if next year they're like, new technology?
He's not. Someone fucking frozen in 2008. There's no chance he's coming back.
He lived till 2008? Do you say? I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I picture it as like incredibly long ago, but he dated Marilyn Monroe, which is just pretty long ago.
Ted Williams, 2002. That's when he died. Sorry. So if he was frozen in 2000.
Am I mixing him up? Joe DiMaggio dated.
Yeah.
Joe DiMaggio was probably buried or cremated in a normal way. But poor Ted Williams.
With respect.
Yeah. Because the only reason I know how like is what?
Walt Disney, didn't he get like cryo?
No, that was a rumor.
Urban legend.
Yeah, it's like an urban legend type thing.
Yeah, the truth behind that one is he inquired about it because he was into like tech of the future. So people claim that, but it wasn't true. You could actually go to his grave.
Oh, okay.
What do you think is his grave? Yeah.
I only know about I only know about how horrible the Ted Williams head story is, where like they just mistreated his body and like lost it at times and like thawed out, had to refreeze it because there was an old caller into the Opie and Anthony show who would call in and say these reprehensible things, and he would plug his website tedwilliamshead.com. I remember him saying that, and Anthony on the show being like, "Oh, what a despicable piece of shit you are." Yeah, the guy's username was Puddle of AIDS. I still remember that.
Well, speaking of Anthony Cumia, do you follow him on Twitter and his Twitter account?
Oh yeah,
dude, that guy has a Google alert for any time a person commits a crime. He's going to retweet it. You can't stop him. That's all he likes to do.
It's just nonstop. Like some two school kids fighting. If it's a black kid like beating up a white kid, he just will retweet it every time it happens and say like, "When will we learn? When will we learn?" And then
if he says "When will we learn?" it was a mild Cumia post because he's going hard in the paint on a lot of those with the commentary.
Yeah.
It's too much of the same shit. Like,
well, you gotta remember, you gotta remember a person kind of, I don't want to say ruined, but really sidetracked his life in a terrible kind of way. He got canceled before canceling was a thing. Lost that goddamn radio show. It was the second biggest radio show in the fucking world. Lost that radio show. Lost that job. They painted him as like a psychopath, and he's like, "Dude, I showed restraint. What are you talking about? I could have blasted her," and that made it worse.
That story was always odd, though, that he was like in Times Square at 1 o'clock in the morning and like talking to an escort or like some streetwalker. Like,
I think some people
never added up.
They showed up. And they were like, "This is Obama country." They put a noose around his neck. They poured bleach on him. It's believable. I believe I've seen Anthony Cumia.
He wouldn't lie about that.
It was also probably a 1-2 punch because I think Patrice O'Neal died not too long before.
It was a few years before. Patrice died in 2011, and then Anthony got fired in 2014.
So
I remember because it was the only thing that like made my days at Enterprise driving around or in the office a little better was like listening to Jimmy and Anthony riff. And then that morning when I got to work and I like heard Opie and Jim being like, "We don't know what's going on with Anthony." I'm like, "No, not my one thing. Please don't end." And then it did. That sucked. It was such a fucking funny show.
Yeah, I've been tempted to make like a giant video about Lady Di and just like the entire story.
Oh yeah, that would be a good one. Did you listen to a lot of OA?
I've listened to, like, there was a summer when I was probably like 20 years old where the entire summer I just listened through what was probably like 50 hours or something of Lady Di calls, like every single one in chronological order. And it's a wild story. And I just thought to myself, this could be condensed down to like a really solid video, but it's quite an undertaking to just condense that. And then you have to figure out visuals to go along.
That would be a good one.
Radio clips.
Because she was, for your benefit, Woody, Lady Diane, she was this off again, on again, homeless, intense, hardcore alcoholic that for some reason was obsessed with the Opie and Anthony show. And they like made it clear, like you stink and you're annoying and you bother us and you come in here and you're like dry heaving and gagging and being nasty, like a homeless level alcoholic. Like, why do you like our show so much? Like, you don't even get the jokes we're saying. Like, and she'd be like, oh, well, you know, I just like you guys. We're friends. And it continued on. We're like, there are clips from like 2002 where they're like, you know, Jimmy or whoever's like, Lady Di, are you getting a job? And she's like, I'm looking for a job. I almost found one. And then it would be 2013 and it's the same conversation where like she went a decade plus with no work, no nothing, just drinking natty ices sun up to sundown.
She must have been good content. They kept having her on.
Oh yeah,
she was. Yeah, they had her on for an internship for 1 week. It was right before Anthony got axed, like a year before that. And I think they all had like a come to Jesus moment about how intense her problem with alcohol was during the show. Like during the internship, because she couldn't hide it anymore. And so she's just like vomiting, shitting her pants, wearing diapers. And like she's downplaying the diapers. Everyone was judgmental. Yeah. She would vomit all day, every day in the Sirius XM bathroom. And she wouldn't vomit in the toilet because she said that was for number 1 or number 2. And so she was big vomits, like just sitting on top of the sluice grate in the sink for everyone to deal with. And like they had a big to do where they're like, Lady Di, do you realize you freaked out Ugly Betty, the actress from this ABC show, because she went in there and was like, someone's mom's dying, I think. And no, she that would be a great video for you to make. Very funny. The end of her story is like tragic. I don't know if you've listened to that last interview.
The last
they did.
Call
It was
almost in the Navy. Yeah.
Yeah. She was like in the Navy in like the 80s or something like that. And she called in like 2015 after Anthony's gone, talking to Jim and Opie, like almost like she hadn't been a huge part of the show for a while. Then they're like, oh, Lady Di, we haven't heard from you. What are you doing? And she like she had wet brain. If you drink constantly for years and years and years, and I think it's vitamin B, one of the B vitamins, maybe B1, it gets depleted and it causes your brain to like physically shrink and you just become demented.
They call that wet brain? Because all brains are wet. Okay.
Oh, well, I guess the wettest brain. She had the wettest brain. Huh? And they were asking her, like, what are you up to? And she's like, oh, I'm just, I'm on a ship. I'm on a ship in the Navy right now, and they're like, oh, really? What are your duties? Because I couldn't tell if she was joking. And like, she just continued to like say that she was still at companies that she had left 15 years ago, had no memory of recent things like her own internship, like entirely demented. She's clearly like talking to a nurse being like, where are we docked at right now? Where are we docked at? Like asking as though she's on a Navy ship. So like fully lost her mind.
Do we know why she took a wrong turn in life?
So that's the interesting thing about watching it, like in just like a matter of a month or so, is you're watching 10, 15 years of a woman going downhill in the matter of that short period of time, like in real time, where you're listening to these conversations day after day with her and just like speeding past this woman's life. Her husband, who she had a kid with, committed suicide by jumping in front of a train. And then when Opie and Anthony figured this out, whenever she called in, they do train sound effects.
That was pretty mean-spirited.
It was all mean-spirited. But when she started up, she came on the show and she did a bit with her friend called the Retarded Laverne and Shirley. And then like they just kind of made fun of him and they were just kind of hokey. And she had a son and like she had a job still. And then at some point she had a falling out with her friends. And so they weren't doing the bit anymore. She'd call up. Then she lost her job because she was drinking on the job, I believe. She was working at like a beer distributor.
And Budweiser.
Yeah, Budweiser. So they fired her. Then at some point she loses her child. Then she loses her house. And then at a certain point she's like ends up on the street and is like turning tricks for homeless guys like on a mattress by the train tracks. And they had someone go down there and see it. Then she ended up like shacking up with some like old union guy.
They went down there and watched her fuck homeless people?
Yeah.
So fans of the Opie and Anthony show, like someone on the show was like, hey, we heard Lady Di's living on the train tracks now. Everything's going great. And then some fans like brought a camera down there and were trying to find where Di was. And she is like Oliver Twist covered in soot, levels of dirty on the train tracks. And it's fucking ridiculous. And there was one minor character where they were asking like, so have you banged Lady Di? You guys all banging? And these insane homeless people are like, no. But then there's one guy and they're like, all right, we have to find this guy. They call him the Romeo of the Railroad. and they say that he's banging all the women here, and they find this guy who's just as disgusting as everyone else there, and they're like, so you're the Romeo of the railroad? And he's like, yeah, Romeo of the railroad. And like, so you've had sex with Lady Di? And he's like, yeah, all the time, pretty good.
I think she was calling in on a payphone at that point, and like they'd be like, put on some of the other homeless guys, and then they'd ask them questions.
They would like give her money to try and improve her life during the internship, and they'd be like, all right, Lady Di, here's $200 for 1 day's work. Put that towards your rent. The next morning she'd come in and they'd be like, Lady Di, what'd you do with the money? And she's like, oh, I still got some more of it. I still got some more. Like, what'd you do? She's like, well, I went to TGIF and I had 9-10 beers. They're like, did you eat anything? And she's like, no, I didn't waste any money on food. So, she was just wasting all her money at the Times Square TGIF after the internship every day.
It would be at the beginning of an Opie and Anthony episode where it's like filming at 8:30 in the morning, and then Lady Di calls up, how's are you? And you hear her cracking open a beer, and they're like, what beer of this is of the day? She's like, oh, the second one. It's like she's waking up.
Second Natty Ice.
Yeah, Natty Ice all day long.
Like an 8% high alcohol beer.
I will
a nice 7 a.m. crack.
Dude, the existence of these people that we've talked about so far have made me a little bit emotionally poorer in the last 90 minutes. I was healthier before the show started.
You just use it as a point of comparison to realize
it's
your
a
life
little icky to share the world
family.
with them, right? Like I don't like knowing that they're out there doing their thing right now.
I struggle with how helpless everybody is to help them. Like I don't know, this woman, Lady Di, it's not like she needs money, right? Would she do well if she had good counseling, if we gave her therapy? I don't think any of these things would turn her life around.
Yeah, you're right.
Went to rehab once or twice, but she always went back to it.
Like Jimmy was always the one, he'd mock her and be annoyed by her, but like at the end of the day, he was always like, Lady Di, like you just say the word, we'll take care of everything, get you in a facility, like get you there today after the show. Like multiple times he'd be like, what are you doing after the show? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing other than going to rehab? And she'd be like, I got to go home, apply for jobs. And he's like, it's been 15 years. You're not going to apply for jobs. You're not. Go to rehab. She just,
no one will hire you anyway.
Like, I think
Chris Chan makes money.
Chris Chan is
also, to be fair,
there.
Chris Chan's never abused drugs. Like he hasn't.
Chan, sorry. I didn't mean to call him Tran as a thing. I literally thought that was his name.
Whoa.
I will say, the end of the Lady Di saga, like it shows some of the most empathy Opie ever had, where at one point, I don't know the exact thing, but Lady Di is like completely out of it in a mental house, like lost her mind from drinking. And she's like, I'm a good person, right? I was a good guy. I was a good friend to you guys. And Opie's just like, yeah, you were, Lady Di. Yeah, you were. Like, just like went along with it and like was just nice to her. And it's like, this is the only time I ever saw like him do that before.
They handled that last conversation very well by like trying to make her feel cared about and whatnot. And it was sad. So that's a real difficult one, especially given all the funny content that she provided.
I gotta admit, Taylor, you show me that stuff and I'm like, it's not funny. That's mean. That's not funny. That's mean. It reminds me of when they fucking like did that mean shit to that homeless guy, like they gave him a birthday cake and like stomped on it or whatever.
With Louis C.K.
Or maybe
that was largely disliked by the O&A fan base. That we did not
Lady
like.
Di stuff isn't much better though, because I feel like it's the same thing. We're just stomping on her birthday cake in a different way every day. And she showed up.
She called up. So they never called her. She always called up the show and they're like, when are you going to stop drinking? And she'd laugh and change the subject. And then like, you lost your child. You need help. And she just keep on laughing, changing the subject and have like some stupid bit about like, the political election or something that they didn't care about.
And she lose her child. I thought
Train hit the kid.
No, Train hit the dad. Train hit the dad. The kid lost the kid because she was a drunk.
Train.
Yeah.
And she lost. Did social services take the kid?
I believe her father took the kid, so he was being raised by the father.
I thought lost her child meant death.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, lost the child. I mean, like to the courts, custody. Yeah, my bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully, her son's doing okay. He's the real kind of victim.
He's the heir to the throne.
Well, and even Lady Di, well, it's hard to call her innocent. She's been grown up with agency. Mm-hmm. Maybe headed down that path when her husband committed suicide.
Yeah.
And
it's
a rough.
Alcoholism is weird. Like, it's really good for making you feel better about like bad things. It's great. I mean, if anybody out there is hurting right now, I'll tell you, you're a few cold ones away from all that going away. And what are you talking about? And they're cheap. They're cheap. And like Taylor said, Natty Ice.
It's funny. I'll agree. It's funny.
Medical advice, by the way. I am giving you actual.
Yeah.
I'm a doctor.
Kyle, did that motivate you to drink when you were facing prison time?
Oh yeah. I
feel like that's where this is coming.
Well, they also took my weed away. So it's like I need another substance. I need another thing that makes me chill out. Because if I'm 100% sober, I'm very on edge all the time, and I'm prone to anxiety about little things that don't matter. And I can get in like this reciprocal sort of mindset where I keep thinking about the same thing over and over. And it's like I just need to chill out. That doesn't even matter. We're gonna deal with that tomorrow. You know, like it could be dog shit in my shoe treads that I want to clean. I'm just like fucking dog shit in my shoe treads. Is it gonna smell? Am I gonna know it? I'm like worried about it. So yeah, I started drinking that disgusting Grand Marnier, that peach liqueur,
nastiest thing.
Because I'm not a drinker. I never really like. I hate alcohol so much. I was never really a drinker.
That was the best drink. Kyle suggested it to me, dude. When you unscrew the cap for the second time, there's sugar crystals all over it.
Yeah,
Kyle was onto something.
I left some Grand Marnier in, like I had a little Scotch glass, and I'd had my Grand Marnier, but there was a little residue in the bottom of the glass, and it sat there on the nightstand for like 3 days or something, and it turned into like a rock candy crystalline structure that was so pretty that I added a little more Grand Marnier and like
checkmate Taylor.
When you're right, you're right.
Add a little bit more, and it kept growing into this beautiful peach colored crystal in the bottom of my glass that I eventually washed because that's disgusting. But yeah, I mean, if you're feeling bad, alcohol is really good at making you feel better about things.
But it's a trap.
But it's a trap.
It's not really good at
poison.
solving these things that make you feel bad.
No,
then
it's poison.
You'll be hungover the next day. And you'll be even more anxious.
I don't get hangovers. That's the other problem. Is like I receive almost no ill effects from alcohol. My grandfathers were both severe alcoholics. They both died of it. They drank so much. One of my grandfathers was a bootlegger. He died of cirrhosis of the liver at 35.
I've witnessed.
I get food poisoning. I've had a stomach flu.
No. It is possible for Kyle to drink a lot and hang his head on a moving car and puke on the side. That'll theoretically.
Yeah. No, I can drink too much, too fast, and I used to do that too because again, I didn't know what I was doing.
You're not a real shotgunner.
People would buy me so many goddamn drinks that we would sit down at a table and there'd be 5 drinks in front of me, and it wouldn't even be the same drink. I'd have like a boot. I'd have a boot-shaped glass full of beer, and then I'd have like a White Russian because someone thought, hey, just like you. And then I'd have like a shot of tequila because that's what I actually wanted with some lime. And then there'd be like 2 more nonsense vodkas or something, and it'd be like boom, 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 boom. And I am shit housed, and we're 10 minutes into the night, and I can specifically remember being in the bathroom, wasted, vomiting, with all my friends outside and lots of girls outside, thinking, you've done it again. Just saying it to myself out loud as I'm looking into the toilet bowl that I'm about to vomit into. I'm like, you did it again, dummy. Ruined the night for yourself. It couldn't be much better that if you weren't just so sick, you're in the bathroom vomiting.
Right?
There's people waiting outside to take a picture with you and ask for an autograph. They're playing your videos on half the TVs in this restaurant, and there's hot girls everywhere. And where are you? Stinking like vomit in a bathroom. Nice move, asshole. I'm having this full conversation with
inner
myself.
Voices are brutal.
They are.
I'm saying it out loud. There's the guy in the next stall is like, dude, go easy on yourself.
Hey, it's gonna be all right. They got a lot of apps to fill your stomach up, soak up the booze, switch to
Try
water.
the mozzarella sticks. That'll work. It's like, no, I had a boot-shaped beer and 8 shots. I'm fucked. So like on the way back, I'm genuinely vomiting out the side of a moving vehicle. I don't know why y'all didn't stop.
I wasn't driving.
I know. I said y'all. I don't remember who was driving. Joe must have been somewhere because Joe filmed the vomiting, so he had to have a hands-free.
I don't know who drove. I don't recall.
I don't know
Kitty?
either.
It wouldn't be Kitty.
She can't fucking drive. She don't know how.
It was the worst suggestion. I don't know.
Yeah, then she's probably not the one you want.
I have a much better grasp on alcohol these days, and for the last few years or whatever, like. We haven't done a drinking episode in a coon's age, but I remember last time we did one of those, I put away over a bottle of vodka, like a full 5th of vodka I put away in this 4-hour time span, and then like cracked open another one and went to work on it. And that's the drunkest I can remember being. Like that's the only time I've ever blacked out and had like memory loss. That was fucked.
Yeah, I'm good not doing drinking episodes anymore.
No, yeah, I'd rather do like smoking episodes. We could do one of those for a change.
That would be much easier, but I don't.
I want to do my like sin of choice. Can't we just down gummy worms for a whole episode?
You guys want to have a candy episode?
We're
like
a jelly bean episode.
Why'd they have to pick peanut brittle? It's the most awful thing to listen to.
Oh, right.